All right, under special items, number one is ordinance calendar number 5398 AA, an ordinance amending and reenacting the St. Tammany Parish Home Rule Charter to approval by the electorate of St. Tammany Parish and otherwise providing with respect thereto. And for your information, this is the charter review, the charter amendments, and that we have been discussing now for some 9 months. And I don't have a card from anybody that's requested time on the agenda. Who?
No, you don't. It's not for that one.
I don't have one for this one.
Mr. Chairman,
Okay? Yes, sir.
I would move that we adopt ordinance calendar number 5398 AA.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded. It will be adopt ordinance calendar number 5398 AA. Discussion from the council.
I just think these are all the things that we have worked on for a long period of time, since last September, and we need to pass this tonight to get it on the November ballot. If we want to have the largest amount of people in St. Tammany to vote on this, this is the time to pass it tonight and get it through there. So,
Yeah, discussion.
Do
Ready to vote?
we have any comments from the administration? Anything, any cards from the public?
Yes, I would. Matt?
Yeah, turn in a card.
I will. You want me to? You know,
I want you to.
I mean first up, or can I speak first and then give you the card?
All right, either way. Go ahead, Terry.
Terry Lewis Stevens? No. You all know who I am.
Terry Lewis Stevens, 725 Dove Park Road in Covington. I'm wondering, since this is televised, I'm assuming it's televised for the public who might be at home, and since there's no associated documentation on the table here regarding what this particular motion is, it might be beneficial to the people at home that you read what it is you're passing tonight, if you would be so kind. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Are you ready to vote? No objection to voting, please vote on the machine.
Motion passes 11 yeas, 1 nay, 2 absent.
Thank you. The next one is the resolution ordering and calling a special election to be held on November the 21st, 2015, parish-wide in the parish of St. Tammany, state of Louisiana, to submit in the electorate of this parish proposition and amendments to the St. Tammany Parish Home Rule Charter in accordance with ordinance 5398 AA, adopted September the 23rd, 2015, which authorizes the submission of an application to the Louisiana State Bond Commission for consent and authorization to hold the foresaid election to provide for other matters, related matters.
So moved.
second.
Mr. Belisario, Mr. Stefanczyk. Any discussion from anybody in the audience that didn't turn in a card, wants to talk? Seeing none. Anybody on the council? Ready to vote? Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Third thing on the agenda is the ordinance amending the reenacting of the St. Tammany Parish Home Rule Charter, subject to approval of the electorate of St. Tammany and otherwise providing with respect thereto. And this is the ordinance that calls for term limits for the parish council, 3, 4-year term limits or a maximum of 2.5 terms, depending on the circumstances.
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and
Let me-
seconded.
Excuse me, I think you stated that, misstated that maximum wrong. It should be, it's not a maximum of 2.5. It's a person who has served at least 2.5 can no longer, not a maximum. So I just want to get that explanation. I'm sorry, but I think, the term maximum is misleading.
Well, it is what it's saying, Steve. It says a person who has served as a council member for more than 2.5 terms in 3 consecutive terms shall not be eligible to qualify as a candidate for a member of the council for the succeeding term. This provision shall be applied prospectively and shall become effective for the term of office beginning January 2020.
And since
enough
you read it, I'm comfortable with that, going in the minutes. That way,
I'm glad you're happy now.
well,
Anybody else?
somebody needs to keep you straight.
Well, now, I thought I had it pretty straight. I got some cards, I believe, on this particular ordinance and resolution. Basically, the resolution will be next. Ordinance is the one that actually adopts the what we're doing, and the resolution calls for the election. Carlo Hernandez.
Thank you. Carlo Hernandez. I am for term limits. I am not in favor of this particular ordinance.
Okay.
The reason is that the ordinance does not start counting these 2.5 or 3 terms, consecutive terms, until the year January 2020. I would hope that someone would consider deleting the last sentence, which states this. And of course, it would then get back to, well, 11 members voted against doing that not too long ago. And it's just curious that now, because of this change, which doesn't start counting until January 2020, that now maybe more people are for this. But is it really a fair choice by the voters to say, okay, I'm for term limits, but term limits don't start until the year 2020, and that's for the first time? I mean, is that fair? I don't think it's fair, and I would hope that you turn this down and that you give one that begins with the year following this election. Thank you.
I have next is Suzanne Mannett. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Night and day, my heart cries out for the great country America was and was meant to be. In recent years, with the tremendous corruption in Washington, D.C., a movement was arisen attempting to limit the abuse of our elected officials in Washington who no longer listen to our voice. Many people are considering the use of term limits as one way to decrease the damage being done to America. On a national scale, that may be a good idea. But on a local level, the environment we find ourselves in, I believe it would cause more harm than good. St. Tammany does not have a Harry Reid or a Barbara Boxer or a Mitch McConnell or a John Boehner or a disastrous Obama to deal with. Our public officials do anywhere from a fair to excellent job in serving the public. I fear that the adoption of term limits would remove many good public officials from office who have the experience to move St. Tammany forward. I also fear that the vacancies created would be filled with candidates coming from very liberal organizations. Candidates coming from very liberal organizations who would only attempt to move St. Tammany in the same direction that our country has been moving nationally. We don't want or need people with crazy philosophies that support such things as nuclear Iran deal, Obamacare, illegal immigration, purposeful division among our citizens, disrespect for the rule of law, and our Constitution. And degrowthers, degrossers who would wipe away our industries, destroy American energy producers. Please consider the adoption of a code of ethics instead, which would be a lot less riskier and a lot more palatable to the environment we find ourselves in today. Please consider this. Think about what I'm saying. Thank you very
Mike.
much.
Suzanne, did you want to speak?
I'm Suzanne Manette, and I'm opposed to term limits for the council. And my reasons are that there is a lot of quality people in office. I know from over the years I've participated in the council that it takes time for each councilman to learn his district and understand the particulars of it. So the better thing, instead of spending the money to have a special election for term limits, it would benefit all of us if the St. Tammany Parish would establish a code of ethics so that the people who are quality and who are leaders can stay in office as long as they're doing their job. And some of these ethics should include justice, respect, listening to people who do bring issues, their service, their public service, their responsibility in office, their integrity in office, not showing partiality to certain people, being professional and transparent, and putting term limits to vote in the community. Many of our citizens are involved with their day-to-day activities and really wouldn't know who to vote for to replace the councilman that they have. Chances are some may be informed, some may not. The best outcome would be if we would have a code of ethics that complaints could be brought up to, and we could assure that the leaders that we have that are high quality that we've continued to see in St. Tammany have the opportunity to serve. If the public is not happy with their leaders, they'll have an election every 4 years, as Mr. Stefanski had pointed out. So code of ethics would be necessary, and it would be the best thing for our parish.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Mr. Stefanski?
I only want to address one thing. And Carlo had brought up a point that says, we need to move this. Quite frankly, we can't lawfully move it prior to 2020. It cannot stop. First of all, I would tell you, there are people that have already been elected for the term 2016 to 2020. You cannot reduce their term of office. And so that they were elected on the day that nobody ran against them, and so you can't reduce that term. The earliest we can put this in is 2020, and that's why that's the date that's been selected. So I wanted to clarify that to everybody, because some people think we're postponing this or putting it off for some reason. No matter when we vote on it between now and then, it cannot go into effect prior to 2020 because the law requires that the people be allowed to serve their term, and you can't change the term of somebody who's already been elected. So that's why it's there. Thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Belisario.
I just want to say that Steve gave an explanation on 2 other meetings.
Any other discussion? Ready to vote? Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, no one absent. Or, I'm sorry, 2 absent.
Okay, the next thing is the resolution calling the election concerning term limits and this resolution ordering and calling a special election to be held March the 5th, 2016, parish-wide in the parish of St. Tammany, state of Louisiana, to submit to the electorate of the parish a proposition for amendments to the St. Tammany Parish Home Rule Charter in accordance with ordinances number 5430 adopted September the 23rd, 2015, which authorizes the submission of an application to the Louisiana State Bond Commission for consent and authorization to hold a aforesaid election and to provide for other related matters.
So moved.
Balserio. Mr. Stefanczyk. John, you had, both of you had selected both of these to talk about. Do y'all want to talk about?
We would have the same thing to say.
Okay. Anybody else? Mr. Balserio.
Oh, sorry.
Anybody else? Ready to vote? Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
This completes our special meeting for tonight, and so I declare this meeting adjourned. We will have agenda review will start momentarily.